Welcome back, everybody, to the College Football Payoff podcast. Dan with Big Country, as always. And we're going into, what is this, episode 4?
Episode 4, week 6.
Episode 4. So, a lot happened last week. Some things didn't play out the way we wanted them to, but like we say, that's gambling. It's going to happen to you.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. Just a quick recap of last week, then we're going to talk about a few games from last week, and then we'll get into it. I was even. So on the season, I'm 11-11. But what's keeping me up are those moneyline money makers. I am 2-1 on those for the season. Last week, my losers were Florida minus 17.5 against South Carolina, Baylor minus 3 versus West Virginia, Virginia Tech minus 10.5 and under 53 against Duke. And then pulled out wins for Alabama minus 17 versus A&M. That was actually one that we agreed on, so that's a good sign. Oklahoma State minus 21 versus Kansas. LSU minus 20 versus Vanderbilt. And then the moneyline moneymaker hit again. Air Force demolishing Navy plus 210.
Navy's a pretty sorry program right now.
Yeah. So that's how I fared. How'd you do?
Yeah, I 2-3 last week. Bounced back from 2 weeks ago a little bit. At least I'm not down 6 units. But yeah, 5-13 on the year. Not what we wanted, but that's just from getting carried away a couple weeks ago. UAB didn't cover last week. Had them. Bama easy cover. That was something we had together. That wasn't even a sweat the whole game. And then my two other losses were both big favorites that lost outright. First one being Central Florida. Man, they have a lot of talent on that team. They just can't get it together. Too many mental errors, too many scenarios where they're shooting themselves in the foot. I got to stay off this team for a while. And then also we upgraded Tulsa a couple points. Man, with them competing against Oklahoma State the way they did and then beating Central Florida last week, they're really a team worth a look. And then Mississippi State lost outright to Arkansas. Man, I have no words for that. We'll get back to that later in the show, though. And then my Big Country Bet the Farm lock of the week was the Clemson, Virginia over 55. Smashed that over by about 13, 14 points. From now on, I'll be known as these type of lock picks will be known as the Big Country Bet the Farm special, and we're currently 1-0 on those. So we'll try to keep that going when we see the right opportunity this year.
Yeah, that's not going to be something you just throw out there willy nilly. You're gonna, if you have a mortal or a Big Country Bet the Farm, then you need to play it.
Yeah,
because that's not something we throw around lightly.
Yeah,
here.
if I'm telling you to bet the farm, just know that I bet my farm also.
Very good. All right. I did want to talk about a couple of the games from last week. The first one being the South Carolina-Florida game. I had this on, and I was watching it, and some things kind of did stick out. I mean, Florida, you look at, and I've said since the beginning that Florida is going to win the SEC. That school, that team looks really good. They have height at wide receiver. All of their receivers are over 6'3", I think it was, And then I watched Kyle Pitts play, and the guy's already the best. He's the best tight end in the country. They can give him the award now.
He's an NFL first rounder.
But when you first look at him, he does not look like a tight end. He looks like a wide receiver. He blows past people, makes the difficult catches look easy. I should have won that. The late touchdown in South Carolina, just kind of being pesky. That one, not as bad as the Baylor-West Virginia game. I know you had West Virginia off the card.
Off the card, not on the pod, but
right. And this game had me fuming. I was pissed off the entire time watching it. It was like watching the old Cleveland Browns, because the new Cleveland Browns are 3-1, by the way. But it was like watching the old Browns. You watch it and you go, this is not how football needs to be played. First of all, Charlie Brewer is terrible. He's absolutely just a horrible quarterback. His decision-making is brutal. He has no mobility. He can't complete easy passes. Watching that was tough to comprehend in and of itself.
Him missing Matt Rule from last year just it's really evident to see that he's a system quarterback rather than the star.
He absolutely is. I mean, they so they were 4th and goal from the 1-yard line, I think it was. They brought in Bohannon a few plays. He just runs right up into the line, gets stuffed. And then that 4th and 1 play, they ran a running play into it, and you watched it on TV. That should have been a touchdown.
Yeah, I wasn't complaining about it because obviously I had West Virginia, but that game last Saturday was a complete ref show. Everything, the refs made the whole game completely about themselves. And although they did it was pretty uneven on both sides, but the biggest dagger was them taking that touchdown away from Baylor, or actually not even awarding it. So 4th and 1, he's clearly like a half yard over the end zone. None of the refs come through with their hands up. And then upon, call stood after review because there was no conclusive evidence to reverse it. But, man, just a really, really poorly reffed game all around.
Yeah, because then after Baylor scores they score a late TD after a play that should have been called for targeting, wasn't called. They scored the touchdown. The wide receiver literally goes up to the camera, does a little flex, gets called for unsportsmanlike conduct.
That was the worst unsportsmanlike conduct call that I've seen since the Kansas State salute like 8 years ago in the Kansas State's bowl game. That ruined it for him. That was the worst unsportsmanlike conduct call I've seen in years.
And that game just I was pulling my hair out. I couldn't stand watching it. And I started the day 0-2. I'm sitting there thinking, we got to turn this around. Luckily, we found some winners in there, but starting off that way was brutal. And I need to take a few weeks off from Baylor because that was just unacceptable, man.
Yeah, they're not going to be on the card for the next couple weeks until we know who they actually are.
Exactly. So speaking of the card, we got a pretty good slate. We are going to start our card here. What do you got?
We got Marshall going down to Western Kentucky this weekend. Really attractive bet to me. I saw the opening line was at 5. I got it at 5.5. It's now up in the 6.5, 7 range, but I still like it around the 6.5 range for a lot of reasons here. So, first reason, Grant Wells, freshman quarterback from Charleston, West Virginia. That state and that town in Huntington, West Virginia loves him at Marshall. He's killing it. He has 470 yards and 4 touchdowns through 5 or 6 quarters played, through about 5.5 quarters played. And his QBR rating right now is 161.8. He's going to kill the Conference USA this year. I think they're a very high-powered team for their conference. And then their D played last week. They were postponed against Rice due to Rice COVID issues. But the week before, they upset Appalachian State outright, 17-7. But the D held Appalachian State to only 7 points, and Appalachian State's a really high-powered veteran defense or offense. Their running back Knox averages 112 yards rushing a game, so they're fluent through the air and on the ground. And their O-line has allowed 0 sacks this season. So I love this high-powered offense, and I love to being able to rely on the defense for them. They're off a week's rest, and then. Just as much as I love Marshall is how much I hate Western Kentucky. So Western Kentucky only beat Middle Tennessee State last week by 3 points. Middle Tennessee State's probably, if not the worst, the second worst team in college football right now. Western Kentucky just shows me no signs of life on either side of the ball. They're averaging 288 yards of offense a game. That's one of the worst in the nation. And their quarterback Pigrom is their leading passer and rusher. So if they're able to shut him down, which they will be able to, that's their formula to win. If you look back to the box scores of Western Kentucky throughout the season, you can see they did put up 3 touchdowns against Louisville in week 1. But if you look beneath the surface level, stats, you can see that 2 of those drives started inside of Louisville's own 10-yard line. So they pretty much handed them most of their points throughout the game and throughout the season. Give me Marshall minus 6.5. I really love that Wells kid at quarterback.
All right, good. I don't know too much about Marshall, so I kind of tend to stay away from that. I like my big schools, you know that, which is why I'm going to start my card with Tennessee at Georgia. We got Georgia 12-point favorites. The over-under set at 42. I stayed away from Georgia-Auburn last week because you really don't know what's going to happen this early in the season. I wanted to see what Georgia had. JT Daniels, he was cleared to play, but no one knew if he was going to play, and just a lot of question marks. So I wanted to watch that game first and kind of see what Georgia was all about. I haven't liked Georgia the past few years, but I think I chalked that up to Jake Fromm. I didn't like Jake Fromm as a quarterback.
I don't really like Kirby Smart as a coach either.
So
yeah.
There's a few things there. But when I watched the game last week, Stetson Bennett was actually very impressive. He was fun to watch on that field. Not a big stat line, but he was 17 for 28 for 240 and a touchdown. And he actually led Georgia to a 24-0 halftime lead against Auburn. From there, they just kind of, they coasted. They ran out the clock, all that stuff. But Bennett coming in, and it was night and day watching him from how Fromm played last year. So it's kind of restored my faith a little bit in Georgia. You could always say, they're going to win all these games, but you never know how the outcome's going to be. Are they going to squeak one out? Are they going to blow somebody out? Now I have sort of a better feel. And the running backs for Georgia as well, they both, they had solid games. Even though James Cook did leave early in the game, him and Zamir White they combined for over 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. And, we talk about offense, but the defense for Georgia has also been solid. They've given up no touchdowns and 2.3 yards per carry this season. So that's pretty good. You look at that against Tennessee, it could be a long day, long night, whatever you want to call it for the Volunteers. And one more thing that does stick out in this game is going to be time of possession. Georgia, they hold on to that ball, so they have it on average about 35 minutes a game. And really, they played last year. Not much has changed since last season, right? Georgia, they get a different quarterback, but they're still relatively the same teams.
Right, yeah. A lot of returning starters on defense also.
Yeah, so if anything, I believe they've been upgraded at quarterback going from Fromm to Bennett. But the reason I bring that up is last season, this game had Georgia as a 24-point favorite, which they covered, but now they cut it in half this year. I'm not sure what the reasoning was to cut it from 24 to 12, even though both teams. I don't think there's a 12-point difference in the teams right now from last year.
I think that, obviously the books think that Georgia got worse and Tennessee got better, which Tennessee did get a little bit better, but that, what's their quarterback's name? Garantino.
Garantino,
yeah, he is just not a reliable side to bet on. So
right, and I really don't think Georgia got any worse. If anything, they did get better. And, don't be surprised if this game, early in the game, the Tennessee Volunteers hang on for maybe a quarter and a half or something, but Georgia's going to hit a big play. Tennessee will not be able to convert on third downs during this game, and Georgia's going to cover. Georgia 6-3 against the spread in the last 9 games, and they're 6-2 against the spread in the last 8 as favorites. I am taking Georgia -12.
I like it. Let's move on down to who we got. Florida against Texas A&M. I think we both have a side on this.
I got to play. Why don't you go ahead and start? I'll chime in.
All right. So for right off the bat, I'm taking Florida -6.5. I don't know why the line's this close. I would expect it to be closer to the 10.5, 11 range. Man, I really think Florida is just a better team all around than Texas A&M. Even though they're on the road, there's not really a 12th man this year with a limited capacity due to COVID. So they might have like the 11th and a half man, but that home field advantage is not going to be a big factor in this game, as it usually is at College Station. But we talked earlier in the podcast, Kyle Trask, he has 684 yards. He's 51 for 71 this year, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. Little nugget of information. He has 10 touchdowns and only 20 incompletions. That is ridiculous. 6 of those touchdowns being to Kyle Pitts, 6 touchdowns in 2 games. And it's just a terrible spot for Texas A&M. Man, they got their ass beat last week by Alabama. They finally can probably see now that Kellen Mond, even in his senior year, is not a real quarterback, man. I could never back this guy. Ever since he's gotten to this university, Texas A&M always breaks the top 15 in preseason rankings, and they always are out of it by week 4, week 5. So, they get exposed every year. I think the fan base is getting tired of Jimbo Fisher. And, maybe he's not really that great of a coach. I mean, he was able to recruit Jameis Winston, and they won a national championship. But outside of that one season or 2 seasons with him, I have not been impressed whatsoever. Have you?
No, he's been irrelevant to me. I mean, I don't see him as an elite football coach, and his teams just kind of fly by the wayside. You're not talking about his teams anymore.
Exactly. And, I mean, they struggled with Vandy. They only beat them by 5 points in week 1. Mond only had 189 passing yards. I mean, and then on the defensive side, they gave up 400 yards to Mac Jones through the air last week. No Jerry Jeudy, no Henry Ruggs on that team anymore. So almost a brand new wide receiver core.
So I can understand the you give up 400 plus yards and 4 touchdowns to an Alabama quarterback. I get it. Everyone kind of looks at that and goes, "Oh, that's supposed to happen." But what is pretty alarming is that Vanderbilt actually, Ken Seals, the quarterback for Vandy, completed 69%, nice, of his throws, and they did not look good against a terrible Vanderbilt offense. And that brings questions to my brain as your secondary can't stop a Vanderbilt quarterback. How is it going to stop Kyle Trask and the Mackey Award winner? He should have the award right now, and Kyle Pitts. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and the only little bit of information that's turning me off, that would turn me off of betting Florida, is just they're giving up 471 yards a game. That's why I don't have them as number 1 in the SEC right now. I do think they have the best roster in the conference. But if they want to beat Alabama, they got to figure out their situation on defense. But, I don't think their defensive situation is going to be a big problem against Mond. If it does turn out to be, maybe the over 57 is a way to look here also. But for me, I'm just giving the -6.5 out.
Because that's also what I think is. I think it could be a very high-scoring game because of the 2 defenses. But I was sticking with the -6.5 for Florida.
Yeah, that's what I'm sticking with here. Let's just like last week. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, we won one last week. Let's keep it rolling this week. All right. A couple things before we let go of this one. I'm really high on Kyle Pitts. I mean,
he's
dude
a mismatch to any linebacker core in the country. So I mean, he's a one of a kind tight end right now.
He is an absolute animal. He has 12 catches in 2 weeks. 6 of those are for touchdowns.
Yeah, I love the scoring
How
on
crazy
50%
is
clip.
that? It's so crazy. And, Kyle Trask is he's putting up sort of Joe Burrow numbers right now.
Yeah, he is. We'll see if it tapers off. But
it could.
Man, I saw his talent last year when they replaced Felipe Franks with him. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I cannot believe they've been benching this guy the whole time. I mean, I expected him to have a great season going into the year. We'll see if by the time they have to play Alabama, most likely in that SEC championship, if their defense is figured out.
Yeah. All right. So Florida 6.5. We both have it. We're gonna keep the streak going. We won last week. Let's keep it rolling this week. All right. Okay. Let's. You know what? We'll stick with some SEC ball. We talked about Vandy. We talked about South Carolina. They're playing each other. So that's my next play, is going to be South Carolina at Vanderbilt. Over-under set at 49. South Carolina is a 13-point favorite. This is the battle of the defeated teams. Both teams are 0-2. You look at it, if you look at the record, you're like, who cares about this game? But, I mean, there's a play here, and it's going to be South Carolina -13. South Carolina is better than what their record states. Okay, Vanderbilt is not. Vanderbilt deserves to be 0-2. They should not win a game this year. They are a terrible team. I will say it every single week on this podcast. I almost might play. Whoever's playing Vanderbilt, I might bet the other team, just regardless of who it is.
Automatic fade button.
Yeah, if we have one, I'll press it. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just both teams, they've been having sort of a tough time on defense, but, offensive struggles for Vanderbilt kind of overweigh. Yeah, they overweigh the offensive struggles for South Carolina, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So both defenses suck, but both offenses do not suck. Vanderbilt's does. How bad Vanderbilt's offense is, let me put this into perspective for you. They're averaging 9.5 points per game this year. Vanderbilt has a really good baseball team. Did you know that?
That's the only good sport that I knew they had.
Okay. So I started thinking, 9.5 points a game, that's pretty low. I wonder if their baseball team scores more than a game.
Yeah.
I looked it up. Their baseball team averages 8.14 runs per game. Their football team is averaging 9.5 points per game.
Yeah.
That is bad. That is very bad. And it's always going to be fade Vandy. South Carolina's offense is going to look like a national championship team compared to this offense playing against this defense. They're going to win. It's an easy cover, and I'm probably not even going to turn the game on. I'm going to put the bet in, kind of check a score here and there. But Vandy being 1-9 against the spread in their last 10 games as a home underdog, 1-7 against the spread versus a team with a losing record. In the last 5 meetings between these two teams, the favorite's 3-1-1 against the spread, and South Carolina is 4-0-1 against the spread. I'm going to take South Carolina minus 13 and just put it on the card, walk away from it.
Yeah, I like it. They started 0-2, but they're trending up. So let's.
Yeah, we're going to stick with that.
I won't give that out as official, but I'll probably put that on my personal card.
Good, I like that. All right.
All right, we're going back down to Georgia Tech, but I promise you we're not taking Georgia Tech. We're going Louisville minus 4.5 for this. Why do I like this? 2 reasons. One, Georgia Tech really is not that good. Everybody's kind of blinded by the fact of what Sims can be as a dual threat quarterback. He's still making a lot of freshman mistakes. He's thrown 8 picks in 3 games. I mean, you can't back that side no matter what. And then on top of that, I think the market may be blinded a little bit by the Florida State upset. I mean, it's really not that crazy of an upset considering that Florida State is in the trash right now as a program. So trying to look past that, I really like to see that even though Louisville is 1-2, they have a stacked offense. Louisville, even though they lost big to Miami, they still put up over 500 yards of offense in that game. So De'Aaron King really was the problem for that game. And since they've already faced probably the best dual threat quarterback in the country right now, I don't see Louisville having the same exact problems with the freshman dual threat at Georgia Tech. Sims is a great player, but I see the freshman mistakes happening over and over again, and I just can't back it. And aside from that, their defense got absolutely embarrassed against Syracuse either last week or 2 weeks ago. Man, this is an easy cover for Louisville if they can shut down Sims. Give me Louisville minus 4.5, and I expect Tutu Atwell to have a huge game, possibly over 150 receiving yards.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech, I was high on them. I thought they were turning a corner, getting away from the option, going into a spread offense, but it looks like it's causing more problems than it is.
Yeah, they're trying to turn the corner. They're
not there.
Not there yet.
So, wait, what was your play?
I'll take Louisville minus 4.5.
Louisville 4.5. Got it. All right. So, we won last week when we both bet together. We have one on the card this week. I think we need to go with another one on the card. Yeah.
I agree. Let's go down to Kentucky.
Okay. All right, Kentucky, Mississippi State at Kentucky. We got Kentucky minus 2.5, over-under set at 58. The passing, the tempo, I think are going to be keys to this game. And when you think of Mississippi State now, we're thinking air raid, aren't we?
That's all I think whenever I see Mike Leach's name.
And even though KJ Costello did throw 3 picks last week against Arkansas in a game that they lost that they shouldn't have, I still think that they're going to be able to hit some big plays in this game.
Man, I agree 100%. I don't see Costello throwing 3 picks again in this game. I mean, he's not going to throw 3 picks every week. Obviously, those bad habits will regress back. And, looking deeper at Arkansas's defense, they return a lot of starters, and there's a lot of continuity on that unit. although Arkansas has been a terrible program the last couple of years, their defense really does have the talent to shut down the air raid. So I'm not going to overreact to the outright loss last week, even though it's against Arkansas. And then Mississippi State only did allow two offensive touchdowns against them. So, one of the touchdowns Arkansas scored, the differentiator was that pick six that Costello threw. And Kentucky just really doesn't have a great defense. They're not equipped too well to fight the air raid. Last week they were in a shootout against Ole Miss where Ole Miss's offense just went off on them. They ended up losing, and was it overtime, 42-41? Mm-hmm. But that was due to their own kicker missing an extra point. Mississippi State was in a tough spot, coming right off that huge upset against the national champion. I think they bounce back this week.
Right, and that's what I said was Kentucky's defense just isn't built for the high-scoring, passing offenses. In order for Kentucky to win games, their offense is based around possession and controlling the clock. Mississippi State is actually, they're pretty good with their possession. They've had the ball for over 33 minutes per game, and I don't think Kentucky's going to be able to, get a good offensive attack sustained. I think their defense is going to be tired from chasing down these guys, the receivers down the field. That and Kentucky, they're desperate. They're looking for that first win. They know in the back of their mind Costello, they know Costello and the offense can move the ball through the air. But again, you talk about the pass defense for Kentucky. It's given up 553 yards, 7 touchdowns in 2 games, and the QB has completed 71% of their passes. So we know their defense isn't bad, but I mean, they've given up 553 and 7 touchdowns in 2 games. Who's to say Costello won't get that in this game?
He might double that.
I mean, we've seen crazier things, right? So for that reason, I actually see Mississippi State winning the game, so I'm going to take Mississippi State plus 2.5.
Yeah.
I don't know. If the odds are looking good in the morning on Saturday, I might pick them up on a money line, but for now I'm just 2.5 Mississippi State.
Agreed.
All right, so we're in agreement again. That's 2.
Twice this week.
Tell you what,
we hit on Bama last week,
and it felt good.
It really did feel good.
I think we've hit something here. We're hitting our stride.
Yes, I mean week 5, week 6, with the Big Ten coming in a couple months, we're really able to just focus on the teams that are playing now, and I think we have a pretty good grasp on them.
Yeah, and I am really excited for the Big Ten to come back because I miss my Buckeyes. All right. I'm going to go ahead and take the next one then, if that's all right with you, because we were talking about our pick last week, Bama. I got to stick with Bama again this week.
Going back to the Honeywell.
Got to stick with Bama, okay? Alabama at Ole Miss. Over-under set at 67.5. Last time I checked it, I think it might have jumped a little bit. I'm going to check that real quick. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bama. Okay, over-under's at 70 now. That still doesn't change my mind, though. It doesn't. I'm taking the over in this game. I'm going to stay away from the points. Bama, 23-point favorites. Once you get up to those 20s, it kind of gets iffy. But I see this game, and for some reason, I just think a lot of points. It's Saban against another former coach of his in Lane Kiffin. And when Saban faces a coach that coached underneath him, he's 20-0. He hasn't lost to a coach that has, coached under him.
Yeah, that is true.
So I feel like it's not going to be 20-1 this week. I think he takes care of business. And I think it'll be a shootout. And here's why. Because Lane Kiffin, he knows Nick Saban. All right, Nick Saban knows Lane Kiffin. So Kiffin knows what kind of defense Saban likes to implement.
Exactly.
Okay. So I feel like there's going to be plays there where he's going to exploit it. He's going to put up points, but Bama's just going to be a far better team, and they'll keep going. Now, when you look at both quarterbacks and the defenses they are going up against, actually, Mac Jones for Bama, Matt Corral for Ole Miss, both are top 3 in pass efficiency in the country. Jones is the best quarterback when it comes to pass efficiency, and Corral's 3rd. So it's going to be a nice passing game, a good offensive game. And Saban actually, if Saban gives you credit and praises you to the media, you know you're a pretty good player. That's what he's been doing to that quarterback from Ole Miss. He says he knows he's a threat, and he can be a threat with his feet as well. Now, that's not saying he's a running quarterback, but that's saying he uses his feet to make openings to get receivers open downfield. So Saban likes to bring pressure. Saban likes to blitz. What Saban's worried about is bringing a blitz, this guy rolling out, eluding a few people, stepping into some free area, and then finding that open receiver. I think that happens a lot, but I also think that Bama kind of figures it out. That's why they won't lose the game. And the pass defense is where Saban actually he's been upset with, saying a lot of mental errors led to a lot of blown coverages against Texas A&M. So I think both defenses are in for a long game. I think it's a high-scoring game. And here's something for you. The last 5 times these teams have met, the totals have been 80, 91, 69, 69, and 90. So
I think that supports your cause.
They give up some pretty high-scoring affairs and a couple other things. Over's 4-0 in the last 4 Bama games following a straight-up win, and it's also 4-0 in Ole Miss's last 4 following a straight-up win. Over 70, book it.
Lock it up. I like to play. If I had to take anything on this game, I think I would lean Ole Miss plus 24 just because of how familiar the coaches are with each other and Ole Miss being at home.
And that's why I wanted to stay away because
just take the over.
I'm just going to take the points because I wanted to take Bama and then I think that's a lot of points. Yeah. What if I go Ole Miss and then things start going around in your head and just go with the total.
Over 70.
Yep.
Okay, so last one for me today. We're going to go back up to Notre Dame. They're playing Florida State this week. Notre Dame's laying 21 points at home, and I like them. I like them a lot. Plain and simple, Florida State sucks. Mike Norvell off to a really bad start coaching. They were down 14-0 last week to Jacksonville State and didn't really have a command on that game until the end of the third quarter. I mean, even into the fourth quarter, there were chances for Jacksonville State to come. Excuse me, Jacksonville, not Jackson State. But, I mean, either way you want to put it, they're just not in a good position right now. They're going to start a new quarterback this week in Travis, and although he did okay last week, he did lead them for 5 straight touchdown drives, but that was against Jacksonville State. You know, they're not going to be able to move the ball like this on a Notre Dame defense that's filled with veterans, and if you're not a veteran, you're insanely talented on that team. They did struggle with Duke a little bit, but I kind of think that was just first game jitters. And then when they played USF 2 weeks ago, man, they beat them 59-0. They're going to run it up on Florida State. Florida State's really not that much better than USF, and that's why I'd see this spread as kind of being closer in the 30s. I'm definitely going to lean with Notre Dame here. I really like Ian Book as a safe pick to back. I don't think he's some amazing college football quarterback, but I feel comfortable backing him in this game. And then Williams, the freshman, is ran for 174 yards through 2 games. He's a beast. Man, give me Notre Dame here at home. I love the 21-point spread here.
Yeah, I hate Florida State as well.
Florida State's not going to be – they rushed for 263 yards as a team that game. You're simply not going to be able to do that against Notre Dame. And on top of that, if you think you're going to throw against them with a new starting quarterback who's a freshman, I don't think that they can pull this off. I think this game may be a lot worse than what Vegas says it is.
Yeah, and Florida State, I mean, it's just they're not the team you grew up watching. You know,
No.
We thought Florida State was one of the best teams when we were kids, and now it's like Florida State's just as good as high school down the road.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's it for your card, yeah?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. I got one more. Kansas State at TCU. TCU is favored 8.5. The over-under is set at 50. Kansas State Wildcats are my team. All right? I love the Kansas State Wildcats.
They are.
If we don't have Big Ten football going on right now, Kansas State, I'm a Wildcat fan for life now. All right? So when it comes to like close games, you can always count on Kansas State. They'll either cover or most of the time they'll show up with a win. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just something they put in the water out there. Watching them play is pretty fun. And it's fun to watch them because they win that turnover margin. They've dominated turnovers this year. They have 7 takeaways and no turnovers. All right, and when they get the ball on turnovers, they make good on those opportunities. All right, they don't squander turnovers. They get it. They make it hurt. They put points on the board. And I'm not saying that Kansas State is the best defensive team in the country by any means. I'm just saying they capitalize when it needs to be done, right? But TCU, last 2 games they have given up the ball 3 times. They took it away 3 times. So they give it up, they get it back, they give it up. That's all right. So what it's really going to come down to is who makes more mistakes. And I think in this one TCU will. And it'll keep the game close until the end. I think the game is going to be, here's my prediction. I'm throwing it out there. I think it's going to be won on a late field goal, which automatically gives you a Kansas State cover.
Yes.
Right? Because they're at plus 8.5. So I'm taking Kansas State plus 8.5. But here's the kicker. I actually think that Kansas State is the one that will be kicking that field goal. So I am going to make them my money line, money maker, play of the week. All right? We're going Kansas State plus 8.5. And the money line, money maker, Kansas State plus 270. I'm going for back-to-back wins. Feeling good about this one.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I was impressed with TCU last week. I don't want to go against you here, but I am a big fan of Gary Patterson now. Tom Herman got what he deserved in that Texas program last week.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to back TCU here, but a little shout out to TCU. Thank you for restoring peace in the Big 12 once we get Tom Herman out after this year.
Yeah, it was good last week. Congratulations. That's also another. You know what? That brings up another good point for Kansas State winning this game. TCU beats a ranked opponent, high-ranked opponent. Now they come into Kansas State. They're feeling good. They're feeling froggy.
Yeah,
they're feeling froggy.
They're feeling horned froggy.
Yeah. And then the Kansas State Wildcats say, wait. Yeah. And they beat them. And I'm feeling really confident
I like winning the spot.
I'm really confident about that. So that's how I'm going to end my card.
Yeah. You want to go over them?
Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead. What do you got?
All right, the Big Country Week 6 college football card. I got Marshall minus 6.5, Notre Dame minus 21, Florida minus 6.5, Louisville minus 4.5, and Mississippi State plus 2.5.
Very nice. Sounds good. For my card, Week 6, I got Georgia minus 12 against Tennessee, Florida minus 6.5 against A&M. That's you and I together on that one. We're going to keep it rolling. Then I go South Carolina minus 13 against Vanderbilt. The over 70 in Alabama Ole Miss. Then I got Mississippi State plus 2.5 against Kentucky. Another one that we're agreeing on. Feeling good about them this week. And then I am finishing up with Kansas State plus 8.5 against TCU. And the money line, money maker of the week, Kansas State plus 270. Let's keep it going.
Man, let's roll. I'm ready to win this week. I feel really good about my picks this week. How about you?
Yeah, I mean,
the research is hitting full stride. I feel like I know a lot of different teams, what their true identity is now. Man, I expect this to be a good one.
I was going to say, talking during the week, I could tell you were locked in on these picks. So
yes.
You're focused on giving out some winners, and we put that. Those prior weeks are in the past, right?
Yeah,
that's why they're the past.
We're a winners only podcast.
We're moving on, right?
Yes.
All right, everyone. Hey, be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Follow Big Country. Follow myself on Twitter. We got at the Accountant Bets.
Big Country Bets.
All right. Look for us wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, things like that.
Man, share it with your friends too. I mean, we're doing pretty well over here. Might as well spread the money-making joy.
Yes, and even if they don't gamble, we can turn them onto it.
Yeah.
Everyone likes money, right? All right, everyone. Hey, for Big Country, I'm Dan. Take care and enjoy the weekend.